Hi everyone, this is section 2.2. We're going to solve equations using the addition property of equality. This is just defining a linear equation. It has to have a variable. It's only one variable in the equation, and that's why a can't equal 0. So that ax plus b equals c is just a standard way to look at a linear equation. Alright, so we're going to solve these equations using the addition property. The addition property includes subtraction because when you add a negative, that's the same as subtracting. So we're going to add c to both sides of the equation. Notice that if you add c on both sides, you get equivalent equations. Well, in this case, we have y minus 9. We're always trying to isolate the variable, so we're going to add 9 to both sides of the equation. Now, when I'm talking about both sides, I'm talking on either side of this equal sign. So this means that y equals 10. And if you check your answer, and you can always check, go back to the original equation, put 10 in for y. 10 minus 9 equals 1. So 1 equals 1, that is true. So it checks. Okay, now on this next one we have x plus 3 on the, now it doesn't matter which side the x is on. You could rewrite this if you like it better this way because it means the same thing. This time to isolate the x, we have to subtract the 3 because 3 minus 3 equals 0. And so we get that x equals negative 20. And you can see that that would check. Negative 20 plus 3 equals negative 17. Okay, so notice that this one has some variables on both sides. Now we have to get our variables on the same side, and so in this case we're going to subtract the 9x because we want it on the same side. So variables on one side, numbers on the other side. And now we have 5.5 equals 1x. If you want to write the 1, you can, but normally we don't. 1x is the same as x because 1 times x equals x, and this means multiplication. And our solution is 5.5, or we can write it x equals 5.5. Either way is fine. So I'm going to just say or. We can write it either way. All right, on this next one we have some fractions. And it doesn't really matter what kind of numbers here. Decimals, fractions, any of those are okay. To solve for z, we're going to subtract 9/19. Think about undoing, right? This is addition. I'm going to undo this with subtraction. Whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other side. So my z ends up being negative 11. Hold on, I'm going to fix the equal signs. Negative 11/19. Okay, so now the equations are getting a little more complicated. Remember, you can always check solutions as you solve. I'm not always going to show that, but you certainly can check as you go. We have to simplify some first. We have like terms on the right-hand side, so I'm going to go ahead and write the left-hand side of the equation. 10x minus 7x is 3x. Now I need my variables together, and I have some on both sides. Since the 3x is by itself, I'm going to subtract 4x. Now I bring down the negative 4. 4x minus 4x is 0, so technically that's gone now. And whenever I subtract the 4x from 3x, I get negative 1x. We're going to divide by negative 1, and 4 equals x, or x equals 4. Either way is okay. Now, what if we go back and check our original from the original equation? So that would mean that we're going to take 4 times 4 minus 4 equals 10 times 4 minus 7 times 4. And you can just do a quick calculation on that. So we have, on the left-hand side, we have 16 minus 4, and that's going to be 12. On the right-hand side, we have 40 minus 28, which is also 12, so it checks. All right, next equation, I'll just draw a little line here so we can separate those two. We want the variables on one side and the numbers on the other. So I'm going to add 4/5 x to both sides. And so I'm adding the numerators. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 over 5 is 1. I'll just write that on the next step. Now when I subtracted or added the 4/5 x to the negative 4/5 x, those are eliminated because it equals 0. And so we're finished with that part. Okay, so now I'm going to add 1 because I need my variables on one side. So that's going to be a 1x equals negative 12. You can always use your calculators to check this one if you want to go through the process of checking to make sure that this does equal negative 12. I'm going to end this video now, and I'll pick up solving equations on the next video. Let me know if you have any questions.